Right, welcome. So in this lesson, we are going to be covering subqueries, subqueries, or inner queries, as some people would call it, and we are going to be writing. We're going to be looking at how to write subqueries in select, subqueries in from, and subqueries in the where. So you can have subqueries in select, subqueries in from, and subqueries in where. Now, so what are subqueries to begin with? So sometimes when we write queries, when we try to solve problems with SQL, we really cannot just get to the final answer without firstly getting to a point. So in that case, situations like that warrant that we use subqueries, and it will make more sense when I take some questions when I solve some queries that involve subqueries. So, but basically, subqueries are just inner queries, right? So let's write this. Let us write a query that returns the list of orders with freight cost above the average freight cost. Now we want to write a query that returns the, let's just say, the order ID, freight cost, and country of orders. Let's come here and say of orders with freight cost above the average cost, or the freight above the average freight cost. Yeah. So now what we are saying is this: we want to return select order ID, freight, country from sales order. Now where, I mean, the condition is that the freight cost has to be above the average freight cost. So you could want to say where AVG, or we can say where freight cost. I feel like that looks correct common sense wise, although it is wrong. So we say where freight greater than AVG freight, right? Freight. Great. And you could run this. That should solve the problem, but it won't. It will throw an error. So it says unknown column country. Okay, fine. We could come here and say ship country. Exactly. So we run this. It says invalid use of group function. A. You cannot have a group function inside the where clause. And I think we've established this when we were working on when we're working on group by. Now, how do we solve this? Now, this is the part where we uh, see our first application of subqueries, because really the value that we want to put here is just select avg freight from sales order. So this right here, this value right here, 78.24402, this particular value here is what we want to put in this place. So basically the solution to this question is um where freight is greater than 78.244205 or something like that. So if we should now run this, it will work. It will give us those freights, right? All of these ones. But we don't want to firstly, write this average freight, get it, keep it somewhere, and now plug it into the main stuff. No, we don't have to do that. We can just use a subquery. That is, we can take this query, which is like an independent query on its own, can work on its own. plug it into the place where we need this to work. So how do we do that? Come here and we, open this bracket here. Then I can go ahead and type this same thing here. I could copy it, but I'm just going to type it. It's the same thing that I'm going to be typing. So, excuse me. So it's going to be select average freight from sales order, like this. Now look at it. First thing that gets executed is, the from as usual, then everything in the way we get executed. So this guy says where freight is greater than n, it executes select average freight, knows this thing, holds it in memory, use it to filter this one, then do the right thing. So if we run this, you're going to get the same exact result that we got earlier, starting with Switzerland. So this is the first application of, subquery, right? So you see how subquery works, but in this case, in the where clause. In the where clause. So this is our where clause, and we have a subquery inside it. You know, that is an application of that. So we should also let's take one more. Let's take one more for subqueries in where clause. So we can say write a query. I think we've solved something like this in the last class, but we did with left join, left and right join. I want to show you how to do something like that with subquery. So we say write a query that returns the names of customers that has not patronized us. So how do we do that? The way to do that is going to be select. Now, firstly, we want to get the company name, comma, contact name from customers. Now, we want to only get the name, the company and contact name of customers that have not patronized us. So all we have to do is you can say where cost ID, so where not cost ID, and now look at something interesting. If if you come to orders table, sales orders table, that is where we are keeping record of people that have bought something from us, cost ID. If we can find your ID, your customer ID inside orders table, it means that you've gotten something from us. And if we are trying to get people that have not gotten something from us, it means that your customer ID is in our list of customers, but it is not in the list of customers that have bought something from us. This is like the concept of heaven, right? So, they say people are going to make it into heaven are people whose name are in the book of life, something like that. So it means your name exists, in the list of general people that have been created or that was created. But if we cannot find that name also in the book of life, it means that that person is not making it into heaven. So that's like the concept here. So is that okay? We have your customer ID as one of our customers, but do we now have it as one of the customers inside the orders table? So if it is not in the orders table, it means you have not gotten anything from us. So that's why we say we're not cost ID in select cost ID from customers table. All right. So if we should run this, we should get those two names from earlier, those names that we got. Okay. So we have this. Oh, should not be customer, should be sales. That's my mistake. Should be sales order. And if we run that, we see these two names. You can remember from the class, it is two names also that we had. These are the two guys that have never gotten anything from us. And that is how we write you know subqueries in the where clause. And you can really do anything that you like. You can you know, get very creative with something like this. So it's really not a difficult concept. It's a very, very easy concept. It's just knowing what you want to filter with and just getting that. And you don't really have to throw subqueries at everything if that thing that you need is readily available in database without you having to manipulate anything. Cool. But if it requires that you manipulate a few stuff, then you have to write a subquery. So for example, you could say 3, return the names of customers. Let's say return the names of employees that sold or that did not send any order to the US or to France in December 2006. So I'm going to select and say first name. So we can go first name, comma last name, right? So from employees. Say where employee ID or where not, you know, that's the way SQL does their thing. Where not employee ID in. So now in what? So you say select employee ID from sales order, which is here. We have employee ID here. Then we say where that is in here. It has to be employee that did not sell anything to France. So we say where ship country, ship country equals France. Put that in quote. We say and. So we can actually keep this in a little bracket here. Sorry, and what? And ship and ship date between, so we can go 2006 1201 and 206 1231. Right. So now what we are saying is in this first one here, let me check. This is not closed. This is closed now. Then we need to have one more bracket. Right. So this particular bracket is for this one. Yeah, that's cool. So what we are saying is select the first name and last name of employee. As long as their employee ID is not in the list of employee IDs who have sold something to who sold something to France or who shipped something to France in December 2006. So basically, what is inside this query is going to be the list of people that sent something to France in December 2006. So if your employee ID is not here, automatically means you did not make that kind of sales. So if we run, that's like another very straightforward example. So if we run this, we see um yeah, these all these names. So if we want to see people that actually sent something to France, we can remove this not. And if we run this, we're only going to see, just 3 names, right? And there is no name that you're going to find here and find in the not. So Sarah, Yael, Paul are not going to be there. Sarah, Yael, Paul. So you see that you cannot find Sarah, Yael, or Paul here. So these guys did not send anything to France in um, December 2006. And we've seen three examples of um, subqueries in where clause. So let's look at subqueries in select. So let's look at number 4. And let me actually put here, say subqueries in where clause. So you can have subqueries in select, say subqueries, queries in select. So let's say we want to write a query that returns the 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 top 5 most expensive orders, most expensive freight paid, and the percentage by which they are higher than the average freight. So we want to look at the top 5 highest freight that was paid. Then we now also want to see, okay, how what's the percentage difference between those particular expensive freights and the average that people are paying normally. So if we say select, let's just say order ID. I'm just randomly getting some other column. So then maybe the country it was sent to, then the freight, right? From just to show you the start from sales order. So if we run this alone, we are going to see, country. Okay, we need to order by freight in descending and limit it to 5. So if I should run this, I'm going to have this. So these are the top 5 most expensive order. Now, by what percentage are they higher than uh the average freight? So how can we do that? We can come to the next line and say the next one is going to be um freight minus select avg, excuse me, select avg of freight, like this, and it's going to be from sales order. Now if we close this and close the last one, this is going to return the difference between freight and the average freight, that is that actual freight and the average freight. So I can just call this one diff. Let's call it diff for now. So if I run it, I'm going to have another column called diff. So this is the difference between this freight cost here and the average freight cost. I think the average freight cost is about 72 or thereabout that we saw earlier. So each of these freight costs, look at the difference between them and the average. So now what we're now going to do is to get percentage difference, like by how many percent is this greater than the average. So we just need to divide that by the average and um multiply it by 100. So come here and say all of this divided, yeah, all of this divided by this average here, Control C. So I could um maybe go down here, right? Also maybe go down here just for clarity. I hope it doesn't confuse you. Then Control V like this, and maybe go down here also, and here. Then multiply this whole thing by 100, or I might not even you know wrap it in the bracket, because at the end of the day it is um a fraction division. So if you say multiply by 100, and we could run this, and we're going to have some serious values, because well, this is about 1000%, more than the average, because average is around. If you check what the average is, here, select AVG um fright from, what's that, from sales order. Yeah. So if we should run this, you're going to see that the average is about 78, and that value that we saw earlier is up to 1000%. Yeah, it's more than 1000%, because uh let's run this again and just be extra sure. So the fright is 1007. So I think 700 is already 1000%. So if something is 700 as freight cost and the average is 70, that's already 1000%. So um perfect. That's how you do something like that. So this is how you have um subquery in the select. So we just use that to grab a whole behavior on its own, and include that in the column aspect of things. So for subqueries in where we use it to filter, subqueries in select we use it to display some new perspective, some new columns that we are creating. Then the subqueries in from clause, we use that to actually filter a table. So I'm going to say subqueries in from clause. Now, how can we get subqueries in from clause? So the way to do that is, for example, if you want to do something like filter the result of an aggregate, for example, that you really cannot do with having, you can say write a query that returns the the write a query that returns the name of employees and the amount of revenue and the revenue, or answer, and the number of orders they have sold. Only return employees that have sold more than 50 orders. Now, this is a classic case of what you would do with having. So we say select e dot first name, e dot last name, just to show you, comma, so number of orders, so is count. So what are we counting? We are counting order ID as number of orders from, that's going to be from where? It's going to be from mm, employee as E, join sales order as S on S dot employee ID equals E dot employee ID. You already know how join works. So then we want to group. We're going to say group by, what are we grouping by? We're grouping by E dot first name, comma E dot last name. Now that's the whole thing, but that does not solve the actual question. It just like returns, look at everybody now. This is like the number of stuff that everybody has sold. So we only want to cut out. We only want to see people that have sold more than 50. Yeah, should be more than 50. Now we could use having, right? So we could say having um number of orders greater than 50, and it's going to solve the problem. But I don't want to do that because I want to teach you. I want to show you subqueries in from clause. So I'm going to actually use something else to do this. I'm going to use a subquery in from clause to do this. So what we're going to do is we are going to, the job is done now. Like everybody is above 50. So if I should remove this, just remove it and rerun this. Now we have everybody back. Now instead of using having, you should always use having. Like that's a cleaner, easier approach. But I cannot think of an application for from easily from my head right now. So that's why I'm using this one to show you how to use subqueries in from clause. So let us see how we are going to do this. So what we are going to do is we are going to take this result set that is here, like this, all of this one. We're actually going to treat it like a table and query it. And how can we do that? We're going to come here and say, on top of it, I'm going to say select first name, which is this, comma last name, which is this one, then number of orders, which is this, comma number of orders, which is this one here. Great. From, now I'm going to open a bracket, pass this guy, let me delete this, pass this guy in. So I'm going to highlight this, tab it. So I say from all of this, then close this bracket and say as temp table. You must always provide this. You must always give it an alias, right? Then we can come here and say where number of orders is greater than 50. That is, I hope that makes sense. That is basically how to do something like that. So if we should run this, it should return what we saw earlier. Can you see? Like the 67 156 that's filtered it. So basically that's what happened. We actually querying this table. We wrote a query first that gets a table out, then we now query that table for something else to get this. And that's one of the application of stuff. And this is just like another way of doing having. So instead of going through this lengthy stuff, probably want to do having. But that does not say that there is no application for subqueries in from clause. In fact, majority of the things that you can do with city when we get to city, you can actually do it with subqueries in from clause. So thank you very much. That is where we are going to stop today. I hope it made sense. We are still going to see more of this concept as we move on. The same way you are still seeing join in a subquery class, you're going to be seeing more of this as more of this concept as we move ahead in the course. So thank you very much. Let me give you an exercise to work on as usual. So you're going to write a query. that returns the names of cities that we did not send orders to, or that we did not to return the name of customers that did not buy anything from us in 2000 in the first half of 2006. In the second half, no, first half of 2007, something like that. Yeah. So try that and see you in the next one. Bye.